Ohio State Buckeyes are here. They will play Houston in Game 2 Sunday evening. Musa Jallo and Andre Wesson represent the student body for Ohio State. We'll go right to questions. First question's right back there. Thank you.
Ron Stokes, WBNS Columbus. This is for both of you guys. Musa, first, your role obviously has changed as the season progressed. Just talk about how important it is for you to contribute in your different areas that you provide for the team. And Andre, just your relationship with your brother out there and playing together.
Like you said, it has evolved. My role is mainly, guarding one of the best players on the team, trying to slow them down, and then pick my spots on the offensive end and work on the boards and stuff like that. So I feel like the effort and the energy that I can bring to the team is extremely important for our team.
Yeah, playing with my brother, it's kind of a dream come true. It's something that we've always talked about since we were little, and to make that dream a reality is really a blessing.
Right back there. Thank you.
Paul Keels from WBNS Radio. For both of you guys, if you would just talk about last night's situation and others now, when you're in tight games, the confidence of being able to make the big plays when you need to.
Andre, first, please.
Yeah, our whole mantra is just next play mentality. We knew they were going to make some big shots, and they're a real good team, so just flushing the play behind and just moving on, and that's what we were able to do with Keyshawn and Caleb, just making big plays down the stretch that just kept us moving on.
Musa, same question.
Oh.
Down the stretch, what do you do?
Yeah, just like what he said, we knew it was going to be a tough game. Most of these games in the tournament come down to the last seconds. So just keeping the poise and moving on to the next play and trying to make the right play.
Very smart class. Anything else for the Buckeyes? Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. Best of luck tomorrow. Head coach will be up shortly. Head coach of the Buckeyes is here, Chris Holtmann. We're going to have him make a statement on the day in between games here in Tulsa. Then we'll go to questions. Chris, please.
All right. Tremendous amount of respect for this Houston team to be sitting at 32-3. It's incredible. They've really had an incredible season. As I said last night, I think they're really one of the elite teams in the country. And so it's going to be a tremendous challenge for us to quickly prepare for, I think, one of the very best teams in the country. I think their body of work is clearly shown that. So, in this tournament, you're going to play really good teams every night. So we have a quick turnaround to that. The last thing I would add is, it's interesting. I saw just for a minute today, kind of on a side note, Kelvin's comments, maybe it was yesterday or today, regarding parents and travel. And I couldn't agree with him more. I'm not sure if you've seen his comments, but, you'd love as a coach for parents and immediate family members to be provided some way to travel, have their expenses paid for, their accommodations paid for. I just think it would be a really good thing for the NCAA as we move forward to just to consider, because you feel sometimes for families who are traveling and spending a lot of money to come and support their kids, and I think it would be certainly a great idea. So I just commend him for that thought. I thought it was a great thought.
Yeah, Rob Holler, Columbus Dispatch. Speaking of Kelvin Sampson, he was in here talking about Tom Izzo. He's been in the news here lately. Just wonder, Chris, about your thoughts in terms of what do you think about that situation? Is it okay to be intense? Is this a societal issue where not so much we've gotten soft, but you have to be yourself, and Tom Izzo's being himself, I guess? Yeah.
I think that I've obviously you had to be in a cave to not see what you're discussing there with Tom. Tom's a Hall of Fame coach that has a track record that is up there with the very best that have ever done it. And I think your point, Rob, to coaching to your personality, I think there's a lot of different ways to coach, and certainly different ways in which coaches determine how to hold kids accountable. And I think Tom has clearly shown, I said that to him last year in our first game against him. One of the things as a young coach that I had great appreciation for Tom was that he coached his best player just like he coached the ninth man on his team. There was no changing in how he coached his kids, and I think that speaks to his success. Now, you can argue optics and how that looks, and I get that we're in a different age now. There is a camera on us at all times, and sometimes the arena that we're in, it's not very nice at times, and it's a highly competitive field. And I think the reality is I've got incredible respect for him and what he's done, and it's clear that his kids do as well.
To you, how important is honesty in not being passive aggressive with guys and being upfront and getting them to understand, let's say, roles, because that really is kind of what it comes down to, is a kid understanding what he needs to do?
Well, I think there is no other way to coach kids. I think upfront, brutal, candid conversations are they build trust. I think they're paramount to having growth happen individually and with your team. And I think let's be honest, we're all in relationships here, and sometimes it's easier to not be honest. And I think that choice at the end of the day doesn't help either party. So I think candidness, brutal honesty, it's paramount for a team's growth.
Stay here.
I asked Kelvin Sampson and his players, 1 to 5, 1 being very mellow and 5 being very fiery. And his players said, what about 10? Where are you on that line? And I know you've changed through the years, but I guess where is that with you in terms of effectiveness and intensity?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think sometimes how we, Rob, perceive ourselves is different. You know, one of the things that I try to do a lot is ask our staff, and I'll ask our players, what do you hear me saying? And I'll ask our staff, how did what I just communicate, and it could be a very brutal, direct conversation with the player, like how did that come off? Because I think I'm always wondering that, because what I think, how I think it's come off may be completely different. So I don't know what our players would say. I know people have come to practice at times and they've said, man, he's on edge today. And other times they've said, man, he's laid back. So maybe it depends on the practice for one. But I'm not sure what our players would say. I certainly think that they would say, I'll put it this way, I don't think they would put me at a 1. Okay, all right. Okay. Nor would I want to be a 1 for that matter.
Chris, was last night's game or even anything in an NCAA tournament the ultimate of what you've talked about before with guys being able to affect a game in a different way outside of being the leading scorer and things like that? Yeah,
I thought we had, we certainly had some guys have great individual performances. I thought Caleb and Keyshawn were tremendous in just their individual offensive performances, but we had a lot of other guys that made necessary, important plays. And if we're going to have a chance to beat Houston, we're going to need a collection of guys. They're clearly going to do their very best to take away some of the strengths of our team. So we have to find other ways to impact the game, and I think we saw that. Last night, CJ didn't shoot it hopefully as well as he will moving forward, but he made really important defensive plays, got his hands on a lot of balls and rebounded it, and still was attacking. I liked his aggressiveness. And Andre kind of did what Andre does without making shots. He impacts winning. The kid really impacts winning in a positive way. So you saw that with a number of guys.
Chris, Mark Berman from Fox Houston. Kind of an outside-the-box question. You have one kid on your team, Jaden Ledee, who's from Houston.
Yep.
Given this situation, I know you're here to win a game. If the situation permits, because his family will be watching back home in Houston, would you try to find a way to get him in the game, maybe more so maybe than you hadn't in previous games?
We'll coach to win the game, whatever that looks like. So, Jay's a tremendous kid, but we'll coach to win every possession, and whatever that looks like, it looks like.
Players are saying over the last couple of weeks they've even become more aligned to the system, understanding their roles, buying in. What does buy-in mean to you? How do you get to that place? I would think that's one of the harder things in coaching. And is it better now than what it was early in the season, would you say?
Well, I do think that takes time, and I think I also think sometimes it needs to be validated by, sometimes in kids' minds it needs to be validated by them seeing the success of that. Not always, but in some cases it does. Both success for maybe their individual growth, but certainly the team. I do think it's pretty good, and I think we've seen that here in the last couple weeks when our backs have been up against the wall and we've had to perform in pressure situations. I don't know that I've questioned our buy-in or our commitment to how we want to play a whole lot this year, or really in the 2 years. I think last year it was the buy-in was driven so much by those older guys, and it happened right after we had lost 3 out of 5, and they just said, we're going to commit to kind of doing it this particular way, and then from then on it was really good.
Along those lines, this word brotherhood gets thrown around, but it seems like that's happening too. I mean, guys are happy for other guys. CJ is really happy for Musa, what happened. Yeah. How important is that to where you want to be as sort of this whole structural, we're kind of all together into this thing?
Well, I think it begins with great kids who come from great families who, I say this a lot, but who want to play for Ohio State and who maybe they don't quite understand it when they arrive, what playing for Ohio State looks like. But as they grow in the program, they have a greater appreciation for what being a part of a team, the value of being a part of a team. We're in the locker room last night. We're talking as coaches, and you hear some of our staff and coaches talking about their memories playing in the NCAA tournament, the music that they used to come back after wins and dance to, the song still played in their head. Like, those are really special memories, and I think as you get older, you appreciate how important times like this are and the beauty of being a part of a team. So I do think there is a connection that happens when you have good kids who understand that they're a part of something great, or trying to be a part of something great. And I think we have that. I think we have tremendous young people. I think that appreciation and understanding what that looks like can take a little bit of time. But I really do like our guys. My college coach used to call it teamness, but I do like that right now.
Go.
Back to roles for just a second. How
Sure.
hard getting freshmen to come in who are the stars? Every kid that plays here
Yeah.
is a star of his team typically. To get into that role, I understand that maybe at some point during the season you actually had up on a screen or something, this is your role. Do you meet one-on-one with guys that say, this is your role, or how does that manifest? So the two questions there are, one, how difficult for a freshman to come in to not be the superstar and have to sort of deny himself, I guess, and then do you have those conversations about, this is what I need you to do?
Yeah, I think for freshmen, it's maybe the most challenging adjustment to college is that adjustment that takes place from being high volume in whatever. Usually most freshmen are high volume. They're the guys that played the most minutes and took the most shots on their team typically. Not always, but a lot of them. So that adjustment to now understanding what it looks like to blend in and to bring your current skills and ability and benefit the team is very difficult, because for whatever reason it gets lost on them that they were a freshman in high school one time. They forget. They just think their senior year in high school, their freshman year in college is going to look just like their senior year in high school. And you have to remind them, hey, you were a freshman once, and how much did you play on the varsity team? Well, I didn't. Yeah, that's my point. It's an adjustment. There is an adjustment, and if you do, all over the country, I think the other thing you do in situations, Rob, is you try to, you don't want to get in too many comparisons, but you do give them a reality check about this is happening all over the country. Just look at some of your buddies that you played against, played with even, and how you handle it will determine how successful you're going to be as a freshman. In terms of role identification, I think it's a constant and ongoing process. I don't believe in I think you have to be careful that you're not limiting what you believe players can be from one month to the next. And I think, yet at the same time, I think playing to your strengths is what good players get and what average players